At 64, Emma Olivia woke up one morning with a feeling that scared her more than aging ever had. It wasn't pain. It wasn't fear. It was the sudden understanding that she had spent her entire life surviving but not truly living. That realization hit her while standing alone in her quiet kitchen in Portland, Oregon, watching rain slide down the window like slow tears. Outside, the city was already alive. Inside, Emma felt paused, as if her life had been put on hold decades ago and never resumed. Emma had done everything right. She married young, raised children, stayed loyal, and built a respectable life with her husband, Daniel. For 41 years, they shared a home, responsibilities, and history. Daniel was steady, predictable, and kind in a reserved way. Their marriage had no dramatic fights, no scandals, no loud heartbreaks. Instead, it slowly faded into routine. Conversations became short. Touch became rare. Dreams were replaced with schedules. Love turned into something polite and careful. Like furniture, you stop noticing because it's always there. That morning, Emma poured herself coffee and realized she couldn't remember the last time she felt excited to start a day. She felt useful, yes, needed sometimes, but alive, no. And that truth made her chest tighten. She had believed this emptiness was normal. She had told herself that longing was something for young people, that desire and curiosity had expiration dates. But standing there, 64 years old, she felt something stir quiet, but demanding to be heard. Later that day, Emma forced herself to leave the house. There was a small lecture at the local library, one of those events she usually ignored. The topic was reinventing life after retirement. Normally, she would have stayed home with Daniel, watched the news, and gone to bed early, but something pushed her forward. She grabbed her coat and left before she could change her mind. The room was modest, filled with retirees and empty chairs. The speaker stepped up, a tall man with gray hair and calm eyes. His name was Michael Harris. He spoke without notes, without drama. He talked about how people don't stop being themselves when they grow older. They just get quieter. He spoke about the danger of mistaking comfort for happiness and how many people wake up late in life realizing they've been loyal to everyone except themselves. Emma felt every word land deep inside her. Michael wasn't loud or charming in an obvious way. He was thoughtful, present. He spoke like someone who had lost something important and learned from it. Emma leaned forward in her chair, completely absorbed. For the first time in years, she felt seen without being noticed. After the lecture, people clapped politely and lined up to thank him. Emma hesitated, her heart beating faster than it should have. She almost left, but her feet didn't move. When it was her turn, she stood in front of him, suddenly aware of her age, her wrinkles, her ordinary clothes. "Thank you," she said simply. "Your words felt honest." Michael smiled, not flirtatious, just genuine. "They had to be. I lived them." They spoke briefly, about books they loved, about cities they missed, about how strange it feels when life becomes smaller than your thoughts. There was nothing inappropriate, nothing dramatic, but Emma felt something shift inside her. Like a door opening that had been closed for years. Walking home, she noticed details she usually ignored: the smell of wet pavement, the sound of traffic, the glow of shop windows. Her senses felt sharper, alive. That night, lying beside Daniel, she stared at the ceiling, replaying the conversation. Guilt came quickly, but it was mixed with something she hadn't felt in decades. Curiosity. She told herself it meant nothing. It was just a talk, just a moment. But deep down, Emma knew moments could change everything over the next few weeks. She found herself thinking about Michael often, not in a romantic way at first, but as a symbol. Proof that life could still surprise her. She returned to the cafe, near the library, more often, telling herself it was convenient. One afternoon, Michael was there, reading by the window. Their eyes met, and they shared a surprised smile. They talked again. Longer this time. Michael listened carefully when Emma spoke. He didn't rush her words or finish her sentences. Asked about her past, her interests, her regrets. No one had asked her those questions in years. She realized how much of herself she had slowly tucked away to keep life calm and predictable. Their conversations became a quiet habit. Walks in the park. Coffee on rainy afternoons. Always respectful, always careful. Yet emotionally, Emma felt closer to Michael than she had felt to Daniel in a very long time. That realization scared her at home. Daniel noticed changes. Emma laughed more easily. She seemed distracted, thoughtful. One evening during dinner, he asked, "Is something wrong?" Emma looked at him and felt a wave of sadness, not anger. Not blame, just grief for all the years they had lived beside each other instead of with each other. "I don't know, okay?" she said honestly. That night, Emma sat alone in the living room, surrounded by photos of a life that looked complete. From the outside, weddings, birthdays, smiling faces, all real, all meaningful. And yet, she felt like a guest in her own story. She realized the truth she had avoided for decades. She had been faithful to her role, but not to her heart. She had learned how to keep peace, but not how to keep herself alive. Michael never pushed her, never crossed boundaries. He never asked her to change her life. And somehow, that made everything harder. Because he wasn't an escape. He was a mirror one afternoon sitting by the river. Michael asked her a question that stayed with her long after they parted. "What do you still want, Emma?" No one had asked her that since she was young. Emma didn't answer. She couldn't. Because saying it out loud would make it real. That night she lay awake, listening to Daniel breathe beside her, and felt the weight of a choice forming. Not a dramatic one, not yet. But a quiet, powerful awareness that her life could not continue unchanged. She didn't know where this path would lead. She only knew one thing with certainty. At 64, her heart had finally woken up, and once awakened, it would never return to sleep. At 64, Emma Olivia stood at the edge of her life and realized there was no quiet way back. Once a heart wakes up, it demands truth. And truth, she was learning, could be both gentle and devastating at the same time. The morning everything began to change. Emma woke before sunrise. Daniel was asleep beside her, his breathing slow and familiar. She studied his face and felt a deep respect, mixed with sadness. This man had shared her life for over 4 decades. He was not cruel, he was not careless. But love, she now understood, could fade without either person doing anything wrong. Emma got out of bed quietly and made coffee. Her hands shook not from fear, but from clarity. She knew she could not keep living in silence, not after feeling seen again. Not after remembering who she was. Her friendship with Michael had grown carefully, thoughtfully. They never hid, never rushed. But emotional closeness has its own gravity. Conversations with him felt honest in a way her marriage had not felt for years. He spoke to her as a whole person, not just a wife, not just a mother. Not just someone who kept things running. Still, Michael never asked her to choose him. That was the hardest part. One afternoon they sat on a bench near the river watching. The water moved steadily forward. Michael looked at her and said softly, "You don't owe anyone a performance. You owe yourself honesty." Those words stayed with her. That evening, Emma sat across from Daniel at the kitchen table. The house felt heavy with history. She didn't prepare a speech. She didn't rehearse. She simply spoke. "I'm lonely," she said. Daniel looked confused, then hurt. "We're together every day." "I know," she replied gently. "We stopped sharing ourselves. I stopped sharing myself." She told him about the silence inside her, about feeling invisible, about losing parts of herself while trying to be strong. She did not blame him. She did not mention Michael by name. She spoke only of truth. Daniel listened. His eyes filled with tears he didn't wipe away. "I thought being steady was enough," he said quietly. It was Emma answered. "For a long time, That night, neither of them slept. They talked until the sky turned light. About youth, about dreams they abandoned, about love that changed shape without warning. There was no anger, only grief for what they could not recover. In the weeks that followed, they tried to reconnect. Dinners, walks, conversations that felt forced but sincere. Emma wanted it to work. She truly did, but pretending no longer felt possible. Something inside her had shifted too far to return. Eventually, they faced the truth together. Staying would mean lying to themselves. They chose separation quietly, respectfully. No drama, no accusations. Just two people acknowledging that their journey together had reached its natural end. Emma moved into a small apartment near the river. It was modest and unfamiliar, but it was hers. For the first time in decades, she arranged furniture for herself, chose music she liked, sat in silence without feeling empty. Living alone was frightening at first. The quiet was loud. But slowly it became peaceful. Michael remained part of her life, but not as an escape or a fantasy. He supported her from a distance, giving her space to find her footing. Their connection deepened, but never rushed ahead of her healing. One evening, months later, Emma invited him over for dinner. Nothing dramatic, just two adults sharing a meal. As they talked, Emma realized something important. She was no longer searching for someone to save her. She had already saved herself. Michael smiled at her and said, "You look lighter." "I feel awake," she replied. Their relationship grew naturally, built on respect and emotional honesty. There were no promises of forever, no illusions of perfection. Just two people choosing presence over fear. Emma also faced judgment from friends who didn't understand, from family who worried, from voices telling her it was too late to start over. But she learned that peace often comes at the cost of approval. On her 65th birthday, Emma walked alone along the river. The sun dipped low, painting the water gold. She reflected on the woman she had been, the girl who dreamed, the wife who endured, the mother who sacrificed, and the woman who finally chose herself. She didn't feel proud or ashamed. She felt whole. Emma understood now that infidelity wasn't always about desire. Sometimes it was about neglect of the self, of truth, of life. Her story wasn't about betrayal, it was about awakening. She had not lived perfectly. She had not loved without mistakes, but she had lived honestly. Finally. And that, she knew, was the bravest thing she had ever done.